Hi, this is John Kovich of Fly Water Travel. In this video, I'm going to talk about Cayo Largo, Cuba. Cayo Largo is a stunningly beautiful island off Cuba's south shore. It's part of the Canarreos archipelago. It's the very eastern end of that archipelago, with Island of the Youth being at the western end. It's a short flight to get to Cayo Largo from Havana. It takes about half an hour, and that's typically the route that you will come through if you're coming from the United States to Cayo Largo. But it's such an important tourist destination that it actually has an international airport with flights coming directly from Canada, Western Europe, and South America as well. And it's important to note that this island has been developed for tourism. There's no Cuban towns here or Cuban villages here or anything like that. It's really been made for tourists with beautiful resorts. And one thing that I really want to point out and make clear in this video is that Cayo Largo is an incredible destination to go to, where you get great fishing and you get outstanding accommodations and amenities for non-anglers. So if you come here, you will almost always stay in an all-inclusive resort. And these resorts are beautiful. They've got beautiful rooms, and they've got lots and lots of amenities, lots of swimming pools. They've got tennis courts. They'll typically have a theater. You can do dance classes. They've got their own beach, of course, and the resort can typically organize activities to do outside of the resort, like snorkel trips and boat trips to the neighboring islands. For anglers, if there's one fish that Cayo Largo is most famous for, it's no doubt the permit. And all you have to do is look at one of the satellite images of this habitat to understand why. Permit love to live in deep water and then go to shallow water to feed. And look at this around Cayo Largo. The whole northern side is massive expanses of shallow water, typically between 2.5 and 4 feet deep or so. And the southern side is all deep water. So the permit can make a short trip from the deep water to the flats and then exit the flats and go back to the deep water. It's just sort of like a permit highway. These flats are expansive. They're absolutely huge, and you can pull them for hours upon end looking for permit. Most often here, the permit are in the company of rays, and that is what the guide will be looking for, are feeding stingrays, because the permit have learned that they can be in the company of the rays. They can then snatch up all the food that is escaping from behind that feeding ray. This makes it great for you as an angler for a couple of reasons. One is that the ray is a pretty big target, and the guide will tell you to cast on the back of the ray. So it's a lot easier to cast at that big ray than one permit that's tailing, right? The other thing that's great about this situation is the permit become very competitive and opportunistic and quite grabby. And so if you present a fly well, on the back of the ray and strip it off, very often the permit, without looking quick or, for a long time, like permit are apt to do, it'll simply react and grab the fly. And so it's a great advantage to you as a permit angler. A lot of these fish, by the way, are pretty big. They're between 15 and 20 pounds, 15 and 25 pounds, a lot of them. There's also very, very good bone fishing around Cayo Largo. And if you look at the satellite image here and look to where the habitat is very white or lighter bottom, these are the great bonefish areas. So there's some wade fishing here. Not a lot of it's going to be done out of the boat, but the very good news is that the bonefish here are larger than average. There are a lot of fish that are 4, 5, and 6 pounds, and those are just legitimate bonefish anywhere you go in the world, and there's certainly fish that are between 7 and 10 pounds here as well. As a tarpon fishery, you just simply cannot say that Cayo Largo is a great tarpon destination outside of the part of the year when they see the tarpon migration in the spring and through the summer. Nearby, you've got Zapata, which has tarpon throughout the year, and Gardens of the Queen, which is the same. But both of those have massive expanses of mangroves, which does really not exist in Cayo Largo. And that's the reason why there are not a lot of them throughout the course of the year. Now, that all changes in early April or so when tarpon start showing up with the migration. And you then have the opportunity to fish for them in a diversity of habitats. You'll see them along the deeper water of the reef, to the south of the islands. You'll see them over white sand. You'll see them along the beaches of the islands, in the channels between the islands, and in some of the darker bottom bays, particularly on the northern shore of the islands along the archipelago. Most of these fish are between 30 and 80 pounds. They're, to me, just the perfect tarpon. There's certainly tarpon that reach 100 pounds and even over here. Anyway, to sum up Cayo Largo, I think it's a spectacular destination. And if there were, 3 or 4 reasons to say for that, I would say, first of all, it's an amazing destination where you can go as an angler and have top-notch fishing and have also absolutely premier things for a non-angler to do and keep them occupied. I think it's probably one of the best destinations in the world for that. Secondly, it's an incredible destination if you're really into permit fishing. It's got great populations of permit and great habitat for those permit with great chances for you to actually land a fish or two during your trip here. There's also great bone fishing. Thirdly, if you're lucky enough to come here during the tarpon migration of spring and summer, it adds tarpon to that mix of fish that we just love to fish for as fly anglers, with a lot of these fish being between 30 and 70 pounds. So in my view, Cayo Largo is simply one of the best flats destinations on the planet. And if you're planning a trip to Cuba, it really should be a destination that you consider.